Hey, bonjour, Gakanaouia. Mubarak Nin, Apchinji Kendam Pijayan, or Mama Jiting. Pachime Wijangi Pijayan, or Ma Moanjiti, Wigamigong. Igi Wab Mark Phil, K. Dashmina Ovid. So, what I was saying is, my name is Wab Kinew, and very happy to be here with you all today. And I have to say, as somebody who grew up around First Nations politics, it is pretty cool to be able to address the chiefs in Assembly. So I want to thank you for that honor today. Specifically what I was mentioning, when I was just a little boy, way back in the 1980s, or maybe it was early 90s, I remember coming here and seeing Phil and Ovid contesting the election for National Chief. Who was here at that time? They're all observers. No, just kidding. It's all in the observer section, the people who were here at that time. But anyway, for me, that started a lifelong love of politics. And so seeing like how a delegated convention worked, and to see the wheeling and dealing as a child that was taking place, and then to see, very exciting selection of a national chief, and then over time you'd see that both of them would serve as national chiefs. It was a really, really awesome thing to see. And so I was able to, run for leader, eventually have my own delegated convention. But just for you to understand that a little boy from the res who was maybe a little nerdy about politics was able to come to a room like this one and get started, it was very, very cool. So I want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge the late Jim Bear, who I see as Chief Gord Blue Sky here from Broken Head. Jim was a great leader of Broken Head and of Manitoba. Many of you would know him, would be a good friend to him over the years. And so on behalf of the province of Manitoba, I extend my sincere condolences to Jim Bear, to his friends, family, you, his former colleagues, as well as to the entire Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. This past year, we also lost a few other important people here in Manitoba that I wanted to acknowledge in front of the Assembly of First Nations. One was a mentor to me, as well as to many other people here in the room, and that was the late, great Murray Sinclair. And he always said this to many people, but he said it to us, including my colleague Ian, who you just heard there, when we were sworn in. He said, you have to learn to love the people, even when they don't love you. And at first I thought like, oh yeah, that's really good advice for being an elected leader. And I don't know if everyone out here, if you can relate to that, you got to learn to love the people even when they don't love you. But after reflecting on it a couple years into office, that's not just good advice for a politician, that's good advice for a human being. Love those around you, no matter what, unconditionally. And that was the legacy of Murray Sinclair. And then, of course, also one of your other former colleagues and somebody that I was a friend to for a number of years, the late Kathy Merrick. I wanted to acknowledge her spirit and to acknowledge her family and her husband while we're all here. Actually, after she passed away, I went to go see her family in the hospital, and they were sitting with her before she was transported. And her husband stood up and he, shook my hand. And the first thing that he said to me was, she loved you, man. She talked a lot of smack about you, but she loved you, man. And then the second thing that she said, or the second thing that he said rather, is he said, search the landfill. Search the landfill. That was really, really important to Kathy. And so I'm here to tell you that we did. I'm not sure how many people here in this room paid attention to the Prairie Green landfill search. But it was What our opposition did at that time, and I'm not going to get too partisan, but I'm just pointing out the facts here. What our opposition did at the time is the worst thing that was ever done in Manitoba politics. They ran ads against the family of these victims, these MMIWG family members. Can you imagine that? Attack ads about that? It was terrible. The good thing is that the people of Manitoba rejected that hateful message. And on October 3rd, we were elected, 2023. We met with the families a few weeks later. And earlier this year, we brought home Mercedes Myron and Morgan Harris to the loving arms of their relatives. We sent a message together, all of us, everybody who supported it. All of us together, we sent a message together, which was very simple. This province that you're visiting here today, this province that you call home, Manitoba, this is a place where if somebody goes missing, we go looking. And it doesn't matter who they are. We treat everybody with the same respect and dignity. And so I want to thank the chiefs. I want to thank Cindy, the national chief, and all the leadership, all the advocacy that took place to make sure that that happened. And I know that there's a lot more work to do. Actually, on Friday of this week, I'll be traveling to St. Teresa Point, Anishinaabe Nation, to sweat with the family of the late Ashley Shingoose, and she is the person who we are going to go looking for next. So that work continues, and let's also do the work of prevention to keep women and girls and Two-Spirit Plus people safe in all of our communities. And so when we have the ability to sit at the decision-making table, whether it's as elected leadership of First Nations or the regional and national representatives, or whether it's in political offices like the one that I hold, we have the ability to do things like that. I was elected on healthcare, and I was elected on the economy, and we're delivering 3,000 more healthcare workers. We cut the gas tax and made life more affordable for people here in Manitoba. So you got to deliver on the nuts and bolts. But once you're there at the table, you have the ability to exercise the values that people in this room hold dearly, which is to say, we're going to search for our sisters in the landfill. We also, this is one of the first bills that we passed here in Manitoba, we made Orange Shirt Day a statutory holiday in Manitoba. And I say clearly, it's not the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in our province. That's a government term. I respect it. It's nice. But here in Manitoba, the holiday is Orange Shirt Day because we listen to the survivors of residential schools. And that's the term that they brought forward, Orange Shirt Day. And the reason why it was important to make this a stat holiday is, first of all, that was, you know, what Murray and Willie and, you know, the survivors and everybody handed to us as a recommendation, a call to action. But we also know that a lot of our people in Manitoba from all walks of life are working class people. They work in factories, they work on construction sites, they work with their hands. And I want them and their child to have the ability to participate in Orange Shirt Day too. So when we made it a statutory holiday, it means that everybody in the province has a day off from work and everybody can take their kids, commemorate the Indian residential school era, and then most importantly, do that thing that was deprived of generations in our communities, which is spend some time with your kids and with your grandkids. So that's what you can do when you're in office. This year, we marked the today's actually the first day of school, first day of grade 2 in our household, first day of university for another one of our kids. But today's the first day of school for most kids in Manitoba. And this is the second year where we've had a school food program at every single school in Manitoba. And when I say every single school, I mean every single school in Manitoba. Because when we designed our universal nutrition program here in Manitoba, the education department brought forward and they said, look, it's going to cover all the schools in Manitoba except for the reserve schools that are not our responsibility. And I said, wrong. Don't you ever come in here again and tell me that the kids on reserve are not your responsibility. So they kind of went away with the tail between the legs, came back, and last year we launched a universal school food program in Manitoba that covers every single school division and every single school, including on First Nations across Manitoba. Kids have food, kids can learn. Kids stay in school, they come to school for lunch, they come to school for snack. They're going to show up for grade 12 graduation in a few years. That's the plan. That's the economic development that we're focused on as well, too. So these are some of the things that we've been able to do. And now I think the next big thing that we want to do here in Manitoba as part of a contribution to the national landscape is pretty simple. And it might align with your topic of discussion here at the Assembly. Next big thing that we want to send a message to the rest of Canada about is this. You can't do nation building without the First Nations of this land. And so right now, Donald Trump caused a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. The Manitoba Chiefs are laughing because they think I'm going to do my Donald Trump impersonation now. But I swore to my political staff I would not do it in front of the media cameras here today. Unless people start chanting. No, just kidding. But seriously, there's a lot of anxiety about the Canadian economy. What are tariffs going to mean? What it's going to mean for the cost of living, particularly on reserve, where the cost of living is already so high. What's the tariff threat going to mean to, all of the ability to provide services in communities? So there's been a lot of anxiety, and so rightfully so, Canadians want to build up our Canadian economy, want to do the big mega projects, want to be able to ensure that we're trading with countries that respect us, countries in the EU and Asia. And so the question that I pose to this room, as I pose to all Canadians, as we're looking for ways to grow the Canadian economy, is this. What does Canada have that the rest of the world wants and is willing to pay for? Well, natural resources is what everybody goes for first, of course. Sure, we have natural resources. But everyone else is pissed off at Donald Trump too. And what I think these trading partners around the world want, in the European Union, in Asia, is they want to do business with a country that respects them as a trading partner, but also respects the people in its own borders, including its original inhabitants. And so for Canada to be able to grow the economy globally, for Canada to be able to bring natural resources or manufactured goods or whatever it is to the European Union, to Asia, to other markets around the globe, there needs to be the ability to say Canada is dealing fairly with the Indigenous peoples in these lands, and that Canada is working with the First Nations of Turtle Island. So that's what we're working on here in Manitoba. There's been a lot of press conferences and different events held in other provinces. We've been a little bit more quiet here in Manitoba because we're showing up to talk to you first. We're showing up to talk to the Indigenous leaders first. But my idea is this. You kind of have an idea lab, a test experiment going on across the country right now with a bunch of different regions trying to pursue mega projects at the same time. And a lot of them are putting the cart before the horse and trying to get shovels in the ground before they've done the work of making sure that Indigenous communities and their representative leadership are on side. Here in Manitoba, we're saying we're going to take the time to have those conversations first. And you tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think in the next few years, we'll see that the approach that puts the conversation ahead of time gets things built faster, or at least as quickly as anywhere else in the country. So, it's a simple idea, and that's what we're extending our warm and hearty handshake towards you as leaders towards. Let's work together to build up the future generations. Let's work together to build up the communities. And yeah, let's show that real nation building involves the First Nations of this land. So I started off with some shout outs here, and I think the most important shout out that I wanted to make is save the one for last. And that is to acknowledge my uncle Fred, who's sitting front row center here. We actually smoked the pipe earlier today, and I really appreciate his wisdom and leadership. For those who don't know Fred Kelly, he is elder and advisor to the AFN. Does a lot of work in Treaty 3, is the former Grand Chief of the Grand Council of Treaty 3, and is also the former chief of our home community here, the Ojibways of Enigaming First Nation, as part of the Grand Council of Treaty 3. By the way, I think I saw my chief walk into the room. Jeff Copenas, Chief of the Ojibways of Enigaming First Nation, congratulations on your re-election, and congratulations to all the new councillors who will be serving with you, as well as I believe Clarissa was a returning one, as well as Candy, so congrats to them too. And so by way of praising my Uncle Fred here, what I wanted to say is this: amazing leadership, just like so many of the other leaders that we've grown up around here, managed to go through the challenges of the residential school era and the de facto segregation that existed in the past here in this country, and emerged out the other side a very wise, sophisticated, smart, successful person, very stylish too, I would add, if you go take a look at how he dresses. And what I would say is this: my dad was kind of, right there neck and neck with him over the years. Think about their generation. When my Uncle Fred and my dad were young, they were not allowed to vote in this country. On October 3rd, 2023, he was the first person to raise my hand in the air after the people of Manitoba elected me their 25th Premier. And that is what we have the ability to do in this country now. And so I got a long list of things that we want to do. We got the mega projects that we are going to build. We're going to connect roads. We're going to connect young people. We're going to connect people to school. But most importantly, what I want to be able to do for each and every one of you as First Nations leaders is I want you to be able to go back to the young people in your community and say, look, you can do it too. And I don't care if you guys go into politics as a young person out there. Probably easier if you do business, sports, music, writing, whatever it is. Pursue your passion, but understand that the road to the top is open. And so let's do as the great leaders of the past said, and put our minds together and make a difference for the future generations in our community. Aha miigwach bizindawik, itchiogi makanak, miigwach bizindawik minaandikit.